2 years ago, because of some COVID restrictions at the border, I wasn't able to go home to Canada for Christmas. And so rather than being in that big empty house by myself, one of the seminarians very graciously invited me, well, why don't you come down to Texas to spend Christmas with my family? And they were super hospitable, super friendly. It was an awesome Christmas. But I woke up early Christmas Day morning, and I don't know if you've ever been in someone's house and you don't kind of know the routine and everyone else is still in bed and you're like, well, what do I do here, right? This isn't my house. And so I was like, well, I'll go for a walk. I'll just kind of get out, and then by the time I come back, they'll be doing their regular morning routine. So I went out for a walk, and not gonna lie, it was a little weird Christmas Day morning for a Canadian to be walking outside in t-shirt and shorts, seeing not a speck of snow anywhere. But I found this lake close by their house, and there was this man and woman there fishing. Well, he was fishing, she was reading a book. And I learned later that he was her son. And so, I'm a fairly friendly guy, and so I went up to them and said, Merry Christmas, how are you guys doing? Have you caught anything? And struck up a conversation with them. They were Hispanic, but they spoke excellent English, and they told me that they were Catholic, or at least they were Catholic. The mom said that she was still Catholic, but with a bit of an edge to her voice. She said, but my son doesn't come to Mass with me anymore. I was like, okay, I see how this is going. And he said, yeah, I used to go to the Catholic Church, but now I go to this really awesome cowboy church. I was like, a cowboy church? I have no idea what that is. Visions were going through my head of a pastor on like a mechanical bull or something like that. I don't know what was going on. But it was very Texan, very on brand. But whatever was going on at the cowboy church, I bet that it was probably a pretty exciting place to go to church. And nowadays there's a temptation, I think, for us to look for exciting, for entertaining things in the place that we go to church. We want good preaching, we want good music, we want a good community that we can be friends with, we want to have beautiful art, a beautiful building. And don't get me wrong, I want all of those things too. These are actually good things. They help us lift our minds to God. But the problem is sometimes if we're at a church where the preaching isn't so great or the music isn't really our style, we can be tempted to church hop, to see what's on the market. And sometimes that even leads some Catholics to going outside of the Catholic Church to find that church experience that they're looking for. This happened to someone from my home parish. He was a Catholic missionary, raised very faithful Catholic, but eventually over time he left the church and he joined kind of the local non-denominational mega church because it was more exciting there. And I've seen some of their services. They've got fog machines, they've got really fiery preaching, they've got good music, and I could see why there was that appeal. Because in contrast, sometimes our Mass, what happens at our Mass, it can seem a little boring. It can seem a little dry. It can seem like the high point of the Mass, which is when the bread and the wine become Jesus. There's no pyrotechnics, there's no light show, there's no big bass going. What are we missing here? When the priest lifts up the host and he lifts up the chalice, and he says, behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world, I behold what looks like bread and wine. So is it possible that we are missing something? Is there something that's happening on a hidden level, a power that is going on that we aren't experiencing at the Mass? Well, the words that the priest says at Mass, behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world, those are the same words that John the Baptist says about Jesus when he sees him. He points him out to the people and says, behold the Lamb of God. And that might just blow right over our heads because we're used to this, right? Well, of course he's saying that. This is Jesus. He is the Lamb of God. He is the one who takes away the sins of the world. But for the Jews in the audience, in the crowd, they wouldn't have seen anything different about Jesus. They would have looked at him and said, well, he looks like us, he dresses like us, he seems pretty ordinary, maybe even boring. What is there about this man that's so special? But John the Baptist is looking with different eyes. He's looking with the eyes of faith. He's able to look at Jesus, who looks like an ordinary man, and say, no, this man, this is the Son of God. This is the one from whom power and healing and deliverance will flow into Israel and his ministry coming. And John explains how he knows this, because he explains that at his baptism he saw this supernatural activity, this dove coming down and resting upon Jesus. And so he's able to testify, no, this is the Son of God. He's able to say, look, I know that this guy may look ordinary, but there's more to him than meets the eye. There's a hidden power in him that is going to be unleashed very soon through healing and miracles. Well, what if something similar was happening with us at Mass? What if it was possible that, like the Jews of the time of Jesus, we miss what's happening in the Mass because it seems so ordinary. It seems so common. But actually, there's a miraculous healing power that's just waiting to be unleashed. The Jews needed someone like John to testify to them about what was happening on a hidden level. To testify, behold, the Lamb of God. And so I want to testify to you about the power of the Eucharist, the power of Jesus who is hidden in the Eucharist, the power of God that flows from it. I was back home in Canada a couple years ago attending a young adult Catholic conference, and they were doing adoration there. And so the priest was processing around with a monstrance that had the sacred host in it. And I was at the back of the building with a couple of my friends, and beside me was kneeling a friend of mine, and she was a very undramatic girl. She didn't like to be the center of attention, very quiet, very humble, very holy. And as Jesus was being processed through the crowd, he came up to us, and the priest lifted up the monstrance in front of us. And my friend from the kneeling position, she looked up at Jesus, and then it was like this invisible hammer from out of nowhere just like smoked her in the side, because her whole body kind of crumpled and then flew back, and she just was like sprawled out, laying on the floor like she'd just been knocked unconscious. And it was so powerful for me to see that the power of God that was radiating from the host, that she was aware of, she was able to sense, and it literally knocked her right over, the power of God coming from the host. Because during the Mass, the bread and the wine, they stop being bread and wine. They may look like bread, they may taste like wine, but they're not anymore. They've become the body and the blood, the soul and divinity of Jesus himself. The very same Jesus who walked around Israel, healing the sick, casting out demons, raising the dead, he is the one that becomes present on this altar every single Mass. And if he healed people in his time, why would he stop healing people now through his Eucharistic presence? As a seminarian, one of the things I did was I volunteered as a chaplain at a hospital. And so I would carry a small golden container full of the sacred hosts in my pocket, and I would go through the hospital, and if the patients were Catholic, I would offer them Holy Communion. If they weren't Catholic, I would offer to pray with them, I would talk with them, and see what the Lord wanted to do. So this one lady who wasn't Catholic, I went in and I was visiting with her, and I don't know what was wrong with her, I don't know what illness she was suffering with, but she was in terrible pain. It was horrible to see. She was groaning in agony, she was writhing around, she was holding herself like, oh, she was just in pain. And I asked her, can I pray for you? Can I pray that Jesus heals you? Because I was conscious that I had the healer with me in my pocket. She said, yes, I'm desperate. Pray for me, please. And so I put my hand over and I just said a very quick and simple prayer that Jesus would come and he would bring relief to her pain. And as I was praying, her eyes slowly shut. She stopped writhing, she stopped groaning. This little smile spread across her face. And she went into this peaceful, not sleep, because she was still able to respond, but she was very, very still. It was almost like watching Jesus deliver divine anesthesia to her, like just knocking her out with his love, with his power, with his healing, relieving her of pain. Now, if you've seen Iron Man, I kind of walked out of the room feeling like Iron Man because I had the power source in my chest and it was just flowing through me. I wasn't the healer. I can't heal anyone, but Jesus can. And Jesus wants to use us, and he wants to encounter us with his healing through the Eucharist. Now, speaking of healing, I never told you how the story ended in Texas. There's actually a second half to it. Because while I'm talking with this man and woman, and he's telling me about the cowboy church, the mom told me, well, I wasn't able to make tamales for Christmas this year. Normally I make tamales and we eat it for Christmas dinner, and I just wasn't able to make it this year. I said, well, why weren't you able to make the food? And she said, well, I worked for years as a secretary. I was doing a lot of keyboard work, and my arms are just so sore. They've seized up. They're in a lot of pain. I just don't have the strength to knead the dough anymore. I said, well, I believe that Jesus can heal you. Can I pray for you? She said yes. So I grabbed both of her hands in my hand, and I, again, just prayed a very quick prayer that all the pain in her arms would be healed by the power of Jesus, that Jesus would give her a Christmas gift on his birthday. And as I finished praying, I said, do you feel anything different? And she was so nice. She was so sweet. She was already kind of preparing to let me down easy. She was like, well, these things take time, and it's very nice of you. Thank you for praying. And literally mid-sentence, she stops. She looks down in disbelief at her arms. And then she starts speaking in Spanish to her son. And then he starts speaking back, and they're like flying back and forth with Spanish. And I'm like, hi, can someone explain to me what's going on? Like, obviously you're very excited. And then the son grabs my hand, and he holds it out over his mom's arm. And he's like, feel her arms. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like an arm to me. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling. Like, what is she feeling? And she says, you don't understand. She said, I had such pain in my arms. You could feel the nerve being bunched up underneath my skin. There was these knots of nerves underneath my skin, and they're gone. They untangled, they're loosened. My arms feel completely fine. And I was able to testify to her and to her son that the reason this healing was able to take place, again, wasn't because I have any power. It's because every single Sunday, in fact, every single day, I receive the healer. I receive Jesus. He comes and he lives within me every time I go to Holy Communion. And it's only in the Catholic Church, only in our tabernacle, only in our altar, that Jesus becomes physical, body, blood, soul, and divinity, present for us. So how does this change how we approach Holy Communion? Does it build up your faith to come and ask him to heal you for what you need? Whatever spiritual healing you need. The habits of sin in your life that you just can't seem to break. The people in your life that you can't seem to forgive. Let Jesus in the Eucharist heal you. What about the physical pain? Whether that be long-term chronic illness, injuries, or just minor aches and pains. Nothing is too big or too small for Jesus, the healer, to heal you here at the Mass. And if you're hearing this and you're struggling with belief, either that God can or wants to heal you, or even with the belief that what happens at the altar actually works, that Jesus really does become present to us, then talk with God about it at this Mass. Ask him for the faith. Say, Lord, help my unbelief. And let him speak to you. Let him minister to you. All I can do is testify to you that it's true. It's all true. It's real. Jesus becomes present on that altar, and he wants to heal us, and he has the power to heal us. So when the priest today, when he lifts up that host and says, behold the Lamb of God, behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world, come to him with your healing, and let him heal you today.